Hello and welcome to the ride. I'm in Warwickshire, just east of the Fosse Way. And there on the right is the rather unusual building I'm looking for, standing in the distance on the horizon. And it looks like I'm not the only one interested in this iconic Warwickshire landmark today. No, it's not a water tower, but rather a windmill. And to the other side of it, the land drops down to the Roman Fosse Way. Because of its hilltop position, that landmark can be seen from miles around. Now that was not just any old windmill, but one built to a special one-off design by the architect John Stone back in the 17th century. I fully intend to take a closer look at it, but there's one other place I'd like to see first that has a close association with it. I'm riding to the place that gave its name to the Great Windmill, and that place is Chesterton, a mile or two away. Seeking out the historical, quirky and monumental places of interest has given me wonderful motorcycling opportunities over the years, roads and little lanes like this. Up and over the cattle grid, or rather in this case, sheep grid. And over there in the distance, on the horizon again, you'll see the church tower of the village of Chesterton, the place after which the Great Chesterton Windmill was named. Well, here I am at Chesterton. And what does Chesterton consist of? Only this church and a neighbouring house. The village is no more. The settlement here, there must have been one, certainly since Roman times and probably before, is no more. The dwellings erased from the landscape. Even the old manor house is long gone. The only evidence for this place at one time being of some significance is this medieval church, outstanding for that long row of castellations across its tower and roof. Let's take a look inside. Where did all the people of Chesterton go, you might be asking? I don't know for certain, though there is some evidence in the name of a nearby farm, Enfield farm nearby. It's highly likely that the lord of the manor here kicked the peasants off the land, enclosed the fields and introduced sheep. There's the sundial over the porch. You can't see it, I don't think, but it's embellished with the words, "See me and be gone about your business." Well, I don't plan to be put off that easily. It strikes you that there's no structural difference here between the nave and the chancel. It creates a sort of a tunnel-like effect down the building. But that's the east end. It's the west end of the church that interests me today. At the west end of the church are the memorial monuments to the Peyto family, the local lords of the manor at one time. On the south wall there is a late 16th century alabaster tomb of Humphrey Peyto and his wife Anne, watched over by their many children. On the north wall is the 1619 memorial to William Peyto and his wife Eleanor. This was commissioned from the sculptor and architect Nicholas Stone, who was famous for being the master mason to James I and Charles I. Now here's the man I've come to see. This is the 1643 memorial to Edward Peyto and Elizabeth, his wife. I'm interested in him because it was Edward Peyto who commissioned the great landmark windmill. The memorial was made by John Stone, son of Nicholas Stone. As mentioned before, John Stone was also the designer of the windmill commissioned by Edward Peyto, and also the architect who designed the Peyto mansion behind the church. And I'm now behind the church, the opposite side of the church to the one I first entered. And I'm just taking a walk to see the site of the Peyto mansion. There is the gateway arch designed by John Stone to stand over the pathway that led from the Peyto's mansion to the church. And there once stood the Peyto mansion, but the mansion is no more, having been demolished in 1802. Edward and Elizabeth Peyto would have walked from their grand home through the arch to their special entrance to the church through the door over there, long since bricked up. Right, having met the man who commissioned the great windmill of Chesterton, as well as some examples of other work done by the windmill's architect, it's time to ride over to the hilltop landmark itself. Are these sheep descendants of the ones who replaced the peasants of Chesterton? I wonder. There's the windmill again. It's time to start walking to see what it's all about. And there you have it, the great landmark that is the Chesterton Windmill. And as I'm sure you can see, it's not just any old windmill this, but one built to a one-off design in 1632. When he commissioned the windmill, Edward Peyto certainly wanted something unique, and he got it. The location is most suited to catching the wind, standing high above the flat plain below. From here you can see the site of a Roman town that once stood on the Fosse Way, Roman road, at the bottom of the hill. The most striking feature of the windmill is the way the cap and turning mechanism, which holds the sails, or rather held the now lost sails, sits on 6 semicircular arches. There you can see where the sails were once fixed. 6 semicircular arches on piers, the outer faces of which are arcs of circles radiating from a common centre. The machinery was repaired in 1776 and again in 1860, and the windmill continued to be used until shortly before the First World War, when the winch which turned the sails into the wind failed to operate and milling became impossible. Truly a unique design, there being no other anywhere in the world. And so it's time to return to riding those glorious Warwickshire lanes that this windmill landmark has led me to. Thanks for being my companion and pillion rider today. If you'd like to join me on future rides, please like, subscribe and perhaps even share. I'll then let you know when I'm next out and about. For now, I'm done.